And I think Jacksonville, what they're going to do is they're going to do what Washington tried to do. They're going to do basically whatever they can to make sure Jalen Hurts doesn't beat you with his legs and tries to beat you with his arm. Which, as we've seen the last 2 weeks, that doesn't actually work.
Like I mentioned earlier, the Dolphins did lose the game at the end of the day. Teddy Bridgewater came in, tried to save the day, but it was all for naught. And now the Philadelphia Eagles are the only undefeated team left in the NFL, and that all remains to be seen, right, up until Sunday when they face the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, I'm curious to know, when it comes to that matchup in particular, what are the key things that you're going to be looking for? And what I mean by that is matchups, ways that the Eagles maybe can exploit the opposition, maybe ways that the Jaguars can exploit the Eagles. What's your overall outlook on this game, on this matchup on Sunday between the Eagles and the Jaguars?
So I got my bunch of my notes handy, right? I think the Jacksonville run defense is elite. I mean, they are. They're number one in the league. They have to be elite, right? That's what we determine as elite tone. So I think the Eagles have to run the football against this team because, yeah, they're only ninth now. But they're still one of the best running offenses in the league. And I think Jacksonville, what they're going to do is they're going to do what Washington tried to do. They're going to do basically whatever they can to make sure Jalen Hurts doesn't beat you with his legs and tries to beat you with his arm. Which, as we've seen the last 2 weeks, that doesn't actually work. So I'm curious to see what Mike Caldwell calls up there. But I think this could be a game for Miles Sanders. I think this could be a game for Boston Scott, assuming he plays. I know he's been on the injury report all week. And on the Eagles side of it, you have to stop James Robinson and you have to stop Travis Etienne because Jacksonville commits to running the football, and their offensive line hasn't given up a sack the last 2 weeks, which is the first time they've done that in 15 years. So it is definitely going to be a battle in the trenches between Jacksonville's defensive line, which gets to the quarterback, which forces fumbles. I think this is a team you have to try to run the ball off of if you're the Eagles. And if you're Jacksonville, I think you have to try to run the ball off the Eagles' defense and get that pressure off off Trevor Lawrence, because Hassan Reddick and those guys are coming. And I'll just say this, Tone. The Eagles' front is a different animal than the Chargers' front. And not saying the Chargers' front isn't good, but they did lose Joey Bosa in that game. And Khalil Mack wasn't – again, Bosa and Mack are better, but overall, the Eagles are much deeper than the Chargers in that department.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you think about the way they – the way they're coming off of that dominating performance against Carson Wentz, right? 9 sacks, every defensive lineman – had a sack, even, T.J. Edwards had a sack, right? It was a sack party. And I'm just going to be curious to see how long they'll be able to keep Trevor Lawrence up. Again, like you said, they've only allowed or haven't allowed a sack in the past 2 games, which is pretty cool, right? It's cool to see the Jaguars actually doing well. But something that I'm really paying attention to, and you mentioned it, right? The Eagles offensive line versus the Jags pass rushers, Travon Walker, and then you got Josh Allen, Devin Lloyd back there who occasionally gets sent. And, again, they have one of the better run-stopping defensive lines. How do the Eagles counteract that, though? I know you said they should just run straight at them, right? But is there a way that they can manipulate that in the passing game as well?
Well, this is why I think you got to start the run, right? You got to establish the run. And I'm not saying you got to get 10-yard runs here, but I think you just got to be honest, and then you kind of do the read options, the play action. I think play action is going to be big in this game on Sunday, because if you can establish a little bit of run with Jalen Hurts doing some design runs with Miles Sanders, I think that's going to free up the A.J. Browns, the Devonta Smiths, the Dallas Goedert. This is set up to be a Dallas Goedert type game. I know we've had A.J. Brown had a big game already. Devonta Smith had a big game. Dallas Goedert's been steady Eddie through the whole thing. I think this game is set up for a Dallas Goedert. And not saying Jacksonville can't cover tight ends or anything, because they do have Devin Lloyd, who's turning out to be a stud already. You and I explained yesterday. Devin Lloyd was one of the guys we wanted here. But I just think I think Jacksonville's going to try to at least contain Brown. And this is a huge test for Jacksonville's corners, by the way. This isn't – look, Jacksonville's corners are fine, but they're also the benefit of what happens when the pass rush gets home. So if the pass rush can't get home, I think you're going to see A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith get theirs, and maybe a big Quez Watkins player too. But I really do think this game's going to be a Dallas Cowboys type game.
That's a really good point. I think the weather is going to be pretty inclement as well. So I fully expect the Eagles to really try to manipulate that run game and really work the short and the intermediate game. I know they lead the league in terms of yards per completion and yards per attempt. But I really think, like you said, this is going to be a tight end running back style of game, and you're going to see your AJ Browns, getting interchanged with Devontae Smith, the chain movers. But I really think this is going to be the Dallas Goedert game, like you said. Doug Pederson, he's making his return, and we all know the Doug Pederson era. Arguably the best era in football for the Philadelphia Eagles, for Eagles fans, because he was able to deliver the lone Super Bowl. And we've had plenty of opportunities under Andy Reid, but weren't quite able to get over the hump. Right. But Doug Pederson he managed to do it. He managed to catch lightning in the bottle. So I'm curious to know what's your assumption in terms of the reception he's going to get from the fans. Some people think he's going to get a lot of love, which I'm of that mindset as well. But what's your thoughts in terms of him coming back and the reception he may get?
Oh, I think he's going to get a standing ovation just for what he did for this city. I mean, did it end well? No, but how many coaches' careers really end with a team? And I'm looking at it as, okay, this is a guy that you could boo so many players on the Eagles over the years on their returns. I think it's hard to boo a coach that got you that banner that's hanging over the 30-yard line there, that 2017 World Championship banner. I think Doug Pederson should be in that Charlie Manuel stratosphere. He's beloved because he brought a title to this city. That Billy Cunningham stratosphere brought a title. That I think Doug Pederson's going to get a rousing ovation from this fan base on Sunday. Then I think the boos come, but I think the boos are going to be more for the Jacksonville Jaguars than Doug Pederson. I will say this, Tone, just from following the league, talking to a lot of people around the league, Jacksonville fans are, I don't want to say they're stunned, but they understand why Eagles fans love Doug so much. And I just from the vantage point I'm getting, the unbiased vantage point from just people around the league, they're like, wow, Doug really did a lot for this city, and he has a lot of credibility around the league just because he was the guy who did. He brought the Eagles that title. So, yeah, I think there's going to be I actually think the Eagles are going to do something for Doug Sunday. I really do.
Yeah, I'm of the mindset of Eagles fans, don't boo him, applaud him, give him all the praise, soften him up a little bit. Soften him up, play a little video. You know what I mean? The art of warfare, right? Get inside your opponent's head, with the pleasantries. That's my mindset, right? But yeah, Doug's done a lot for this city, and Doug was a good coach. And I just want Eagles fans to realize, if you haven't realized it already, he didn't leave. He was pushed out. So there's a difference. It wasn't like Carson Wentz and he handed in his own walking papers, right? Doug Pederson was given his walking papers. So Eagles fans, make sure you guys are on your best behavior. You know what I mean? Because again, I feel like if you give that team the wrong fuel, it might end up harming us in the long run. And we talked about this team. They understand what they have in Doug Pederson. That Jacksonville fan base knows what they have in Doug Pederson. So with that, with knowing that and understanding that he's coming home to his former team that he won a Super Bowl with, those players are going to be jacked up. Those players are going to be wanting to win that game for Doug Pederson. What are the immediate concerns, just based off of that you think the Jags may force the Eagles to think about, a team that wants to play for their head coach that bad, outside of the numbers, outside of just X's and O's, from a pure will standpoint and passion standpoint, what should these Eagles be concerned about?
Okay, so this is tough for me because I always feel a team is most dangerous when they're playing what I call house money. And Jacksonville's not supposed to win this game Sunday. They're heavy underdogs. They're going to be underdogs a lot of the year until they gain the respect. And I think they are gaining the respect. I think people know they're a legitimate 2-1. This isn't the Giants 2-1 or the Bears 2-1. I think everybody knows they're legit. Everybody knows this is a big game. And I think this is a good test for both these teams. But to me, when you're playing with house money, you're a very dangerous team because no one expects you to win anyway. And I felt like that was the 17 Eagles in a sense. And you're kind of getting that vibe with the 2022 Jaguars. They have a really good quarterback. They have better skill position players on offense than you might realize. Christian Kirk to start. Zay Jones isn't sexy. Marvin Jones isn't sexy. But they get the job done.
Right.
Evan Ingram's been the blunt of everybody's jokes, right, Tone? But he gets the job done.
Right.
Their offensive line, Cam Robinson, Brandon Sharif, these guys, their defense. There are a lot of guys that are becoming household names like Josh Allen, not the quarterback, the edge rusher. So, to me, they're a dangerous team. And this is why I think the Eagles, in a way, this is a big game for them. This is a good test because you're going to face teams like this that are going to be aggressive on defense and they're going to be well coached.
Would you say it's their biggest? Sorry to cut you off, Jeff, but would you say it's their biggest test thus far, given the circumstances?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like I thought the Vikings game was a big test because of how they beat Green Bay, and you're playing a team on the prime time spotlight. I think that was a respect game. This is a how good are you game.
Expand on that.
So, to me, the respect game is. I always say, okay, this is a good. I always use the term litmus test, right? I thought the Vikings game was okay. We are in that stage where the Eagles are going to be contenders. They're going to compete for the NFC East. Now you're in this, not that they won't compete in the NFC East if they lose this game, but this is a good football team that's coming into your house, and it was an unexpected tough game. This is okay, we know the Eagles are good. They're going to be good regardless whether they win or lose. But you could start saying to yourself after this game, okay, they might be one of the best teams in the NFL, which I think people are thinking already, but you got to show it on the field, right? To me, a how good are you game is, I'll use an example since they're the last undefeated team for the first time since 2004 for the franchise. Their game against Green Bay. Green Bay was coming in hot. They were coming off that. They were coming in the link for the first time since the 4 for 26 playoff loss. And you knew the Eagles were better than them. They blew them out of the water. It was 35-0 at halftime.
Right.
I'm not saying that this Eagles team could do that, but they could make a statement like they have the last 3 first halves.
Yeah, I'm going to be paying so much attention to the quarterbacks, right? Because, Jalen Hurts is a guy that's really hard to plan for. And then a guy like Trevor Lawrence, he's starting to come into his own. And let's not forget, Trevor Lawrence is one of the most highly touted quarterback prospects since maybe Andrew Luck. So there's talent in there. Don't let Urban Meyer fool you that this young man has no talent. Oh, he has talent. And I believe he was named one of the AFC Players of the Week, right? So, something like that. So he's starting to hit his stride. And Doug Pederson is starting to get the best out of this kid. And Jalen Hurts is starting to hit his stride as well. So I'm curious to know, before we get our guy Clay Harbor on, he hasn't gotten here yet, but we fully expect him to be here. I'm curious to know what would be your game plan to limit Jalen Hurts if you're the Jags, and what would be your game plan to limit Trevor Lawrence if you're the Eagles?
So Jacksonville's athletic enough where they could put a Josh Allen, a Devin Lloyd. I can never pronounce the guy's name. Fuke Olasun. I think that's how they pronounce. Olakun. See, this is what happens when 7:20 in the morning. I'm not thinking clearly. Olakun. Olakun. Yeah. So we'll get that out of the way. But they have athletic enough linebackers where you can put a spy on Jalen Hurts, just like Washington did last week. Washington put Davis on Hurts last week, and he did a pretty good job of that.
Right.
Make sure to take away the run. So what I think they're going to do, I think Jacksonville's going to kind of mimic that because it is a copycat league. But you also got to make sure you have the personnel to cover the receivers. So I don't think Jalen Hurts is going to get as much zone coverage this week. He might, but I'm curious to see how I got to look up their numbers because I'm curious to see how much man or zone Jacksonville plays. I know it switches by the week, but if Jacksonville does go to man, the way Hurts has been reading defenses, it can be very dangerous. Now for Lawrence, I think what you got to do is you just got to get to him, right? Because he still is a young quarterback. And last year, as he proven, and again, Urban Meyer's system was so discombobulated. It shouldn't even matter at this point. Make Darrell Bevel look like a terrible coach and a terrible offensive coach at that. But I think if you get to Trevor Lawrence, you get to him early, and look, he can beat you running out the pocket. But I think what you got to do is you have to make him make mistakes, which he hasn't done this year. And to do that, you got to get pressure on him. You got to get him to get rid of the ball quicker than he wants to.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. At the end of the day, any quarterback, if you start to get hands and feet on him, that clock will start to speed up. And again, he's still a young quarterback. And I know the Jags haven't allowed a sack. That offensive line is still starting to take shape and starting to take form. And I think, again, we're going to really find out how good this Eagles team is. We've seen them beat a variant of opponents, right? The Minnesota Vikings, a team that, people thought were better than what they actually are because they beat the Packers in week 1. I didn't think that was a big deal because the Packers lose week 1 religiously. So I didn't think that was a big deal. But nonetheless, you see this Eagles team winning in different ways, and you see the team stepping up in different ways. Week 1, you saw Jalen Hurts, manipulating the pocket and moving around and making things happen. That wasn't really a clean game for defense for the most part. And then week 2, defense cleans it up and they force 3 turnovers, 3 interceptions. And then week 3, you had the defensive line coming alive, forcing 9 sacks and a forced fumble. 2 forced fumbles and one fumble recovery. So you're seeing this defense starting to take shape as well. You're seeing the offense starting to, formulate their identity, and you're starting to see the confidence building on this team. And I think that's really going to be the great equalizer, right? Which team's going to be more confident in what they're able to accomplish. But let's get into our first break. Our guy Clay Harbor hasn't gotten here yet. But Jeff, final point before we go to a break.
I mean, just overall with this team, I just feel like the Eagles got to get off to a fast start again. I know everybody worries about the second half. I'm not going to worry about the second half if they're up 24-0 at halftime again. But I will say this. I do think this is going to be a closer game. They're going to have to generate some offense in the second half this week.
And really quickly, before we hit this break, if the Eagles dominate this game again, what does that say about them? Like, I know a lot of people are saying, well, you got to get tested. Every game is not going to be a blowout. But if they're just that good, instead of the other team being that bad, what does that mean for this, for this team's prospects going forward?
Super Bowl? Is that fair?
You said it, not me.
I'm not Rick Saratella here. I ain't gonna. I'm not just gonna say it, but I mean, when you look at the state of the NFC, and look, there are. In my mind, there are better teams than that. But when you look at the roster as a whole, if I'm just breaking down the league, they're top 3. It's a top 3 roster. It is.
Hey, I like the way that sounds, man. But, you guys, we appreciate you so much for liking on the content. Make sure you guys continue to smash that like button. Remember, the like button is currency on YouTube. The like button is fuel. It fuels the algorithms. It helps more people find the live chat, find the videos, find JAKIB Sports. Make sure you guys continue to comment and remain engaged. We appreciate all your thoughts and all your takes. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the JAKIB Sports YouTube channel. And if you want more from our writers such as John McMullen or Joe Santiliquido or Paul Domowitch, the Hall of Fame voter, make sure you guys go on JAKIBsports.com. That's JAKIB Sports.com. But we'll be back. Hopefully we get our guy Clay Harbor here in a bit. We're going to take our first break. Keep it locked, you guys. You guys are locked in on Good Morning NFC East.